Ashmore Law Firm, Google Plus Hangout. The experts are in the house. Amy Tarnow, Gary Ashmore. Everyone should know these people by now. Lori Ashmore. Welcome, everyone. And our buddy Knox, Keith Knox, is on the line as well. Christy Gray is moderating. She's going to make sure that I'm under control, which is really hard to do. But today we're going to learn on what you need to know after divorce, because everybody talks about how difficult divorce is. But what do you do afterwards? That's really actually when it gets trickier. Is that a fair assessment? It's actually more difficult going with the after proceedings? Is that true?
Yeah, what we tell our clients is that's when the real work starts.
Why is that?
So, well, there's just a lot of things that need to be done after divorce, a lot of follow-up that people don't think of or they don't take care of, and then it ends up coming back to them later and causing them problems. So it's just they need to be aware on the front end.
It's the biggest problem we see, Chris, is that you fight the fight to get the divorce from the time the petition's filed. You fight over the kids. You go to all the court hearings. You finally get a final decree entered because the judge has made a ruling, and everybody thinks that, okay, I'm divorced and I'll just stop what I'm doing. Everything's in place and now I can go about my business. And that is the furthest thing from the truth, because as Amy just said, that's when the real work starts. And if you don't put in place what that decree says and you don't make those changes, then you're just asking for trouble down the road.
It's almost busier than actually being married. It sounds like you have to do a lot of work afterwards.
Yeah, definitely.
So some of the issues that I didn't even honestly think about, let's just run through some of these. One of them is the child issues. When you say child issues, is that the number one concern when you're going through a divorce? And what are some of the issues that do come up?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's usually the most important thing, when children are involved in a divorce, is the child custody. Afterward, you want to make sure that, any daycare facilities are aware of your pickup drop-off schedule, that everybody's listed appropriately on any school documentation. You've worked hard to put this arrangement in place, so you just have to do the follow-up. You have to do the work afterwards to make sure that everyone's aware and everyone's on the same page.
What are some of the biggest issues that come up? What are some of the biggest issues that come up, Gary?
Well, what we see a lot of, Chris, is if you don't notify the schools and give them a copy of the schedule of who gets to pick up when, because a lot of pickup and drop-offs now take place at school, then sometimes you'll have a wife or a husband or ex-wife or ex-husband trying to pick up their child from school, and the school won't release them because they didn't give the proper notification, they didn't give the right names, they didn't give the contact information, and all of it's there to protect the kids. But if the parents haven't done the follow-up to notify the school, give them a copy possibly of the decree so they know what the arrangements are, then we often see that it causes problems.
And Knox is going through this right now. I'll put you on the spot, Knox. You're going through this after divorce, and we'll be upfront and transparent here. The Ashmore Law Firm is representing you and helping you out. What have they done? Let's talk about this child issue. How have they given you the information and the tools that you've needed to proceed?
Well, as Gary said, my kids are a little bit older, so now it's around possession schedules are changing. In my case, my kids want to spend more time with me. And so that's part of what we're going through with our negotiations is how do you arrange that, right? When does the kid get a voice in the matter? Is it in the child's best interest? How do you go back and have a parent who doesn't, who loves their kids but doesn't want to relinquish that control, or maybe doesn't agree that it's a good idea? How do you go back and fix those things? So things will change. They're not always going to stay static, and you've got to, as much as you're trying to get to the finish line and get the divorce done and start to find that peace that happens, there's a lot more involved because the situation is constantly evolving.
Wow. And that, having someone with the knowledge, I mean, you probably didn't know all this going into this and what it would take place afterwards, did you?
Oh, no, not at all. I was, to be honest, my relationship with my ex-wife had gotten to a not healthy point. And I think she and I were both just trying to get it done and move on. And now we're, like you said, maybe the marriage hasn't ended because we're still, working things out. And and to the best we can. And that's why Gary and Amy have been really helpful for my journey to point out things and make sure that things I haven't considered, because I've only done this once, and they've been around it with their experience multiple times. So they're advising me on how to best proceed.
That's a great point that he just brought up, y'all. What do you think about that? It is true, like you hope that, you've only once, some people have been divorced 4 and 5 times, so they have experience. Knox is only once. But for you guys, you've done this hundreds of times. So this is, a lot of people going with inexperience, they really don't know what they're doing.
No, they don't. That's why we're here. I mean, we're here to help. We're here to guide them through the process, make it a lot easier, and also help them with the follow-up. I mean, it just doesn't stop with the signing of the decree. There's still a lot more that the client needs to know and a lot more that needs to be done.
Okay, and we're going to go through some more of these points as well. We hit on the child issues. Let's go to number 2, properties awarded in the divorce. What is that about, and how do y'all resolve that usually?
Well, you have to, once it's determined who gets the marital residence, or if the house is going to be sold, what's going to happen. You may have a vacation home, you may have some other real estate, and once the divorce decree separates and divides all that information, you have to then follow up with deed records. You have to file the appropriate documents with the appropriate counties so that your chain of title is clean and clear. You may need to refinance the house. There's a lot of things that come into play that aren't typically explained by family law lawyers to clients after the divorce. So you really do need to make sure that all that stuff is put in place and all the proper documents have been signed off and filed, which are subsequent to the divorce decree.
Okay. Next one up is, I'm just going to give the wording, and then y'all tell me what it is. QDRO. What is QDRO?
It is a QDRO, a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. This is a very important document after divorce, because during the divorce and the signing of the decree, you've agreed to split either your retirement accounts or pension plan. And what a QDRO does is it goes back and it tells the plan administrator how to divide those plans. And it has to be signed by the court, it has to be approved by the plan administrator, so there's a lot of additional work that goes into these QDROs, but they are extremely important.
And I bet you a lot of times the properties and the QDROs, for some reason, they're not agreeing on who should get what. I mean, so that's where the issue comes in. Someone may want to sell the house, someone may want to live in the house, someone may want to keep the house. That's a very difficult situation. Yeah,
no, it is very difficult. So yeah, once all that's hammered out in the decree and you've agreed on everything, then you just have to follow up with all of these additional documents.
What about health insurance? A lot of people don't even think about that. You've got to deal with health insurance as well when you go through a divorce.
Yeah, definitely.
You do. Obviously, it's determined in the decree who is going to continue to carry that health insurance. You do not have to continue to carry the health insurance for your ex-spouse. However, oftentimes you will have to continue the coverage for the kids. And so it's not just cut off as of date of divorce. Obviously, there's a lot of insurance companies that will allow you to go on COBRA, which is the additional policy that you can maintain at least temporarily until you find other insurance, or in case you've changed employment, you have to get registered with that employer and put on their insurance policy. So it is something that can't be overlooked.
And you only have 30 days. 30 days from the date of divorce to sign up for your COBRA coverage. So that's one of those things that you really have to get on top of.
Okay. People talk about name changes. Not many people seem to change their name after a divorce. If I was a female, I would change my name immediately. So I'm not sure. What do y'all think about name changes?
Well, we always say that a divorce is your opportunity to, your get out of jail free card, because name changes can be expensive, and this is your opportunity to do that. And I would say, what, 50-50? I mean, if there's children involved, a lot of times the mother would like to keep the last name because it's their children's last name. If there's no children involved, it's more likely that they'll change back to their maiden name.
Oh, really?
Don't want to go through the hassle, especially business people who made a name for themselves. So it's personal preference.
Interesting. I did not realize that it's about 50-50. That seemed higher than I originally thought. I thought most people keep their names, so half and half. Huh. Interesting. Okay.
And Chris, name change kind of goes in line with also address change. What a lot of people forget to do is after the divorce decree is entered and they may have changed their name or their address, is they've got to be sure to contact all the appropriate people. For example, the Department of Public to get a new driver's license issued. They need to contact the Social Security Administration and make sure they have their proper correct legal name and address at that point. All credit card companies, any type of insurance, whether it's vehicle insurance, home insurance, life insurance.
That's a lot of stuff.
There's just a litany list, and we'll ask Christy to please post that either as a blog or as onto our website so that people can go there to find that litany list of things they need to check off when they do a name change or an address change.
And I actually saw on the news last night, there was a very interesting piece on the news last night where a divorced couple, the wife never changed her address on her driver's license. She had gotten electricity at a new address. However, her address was still the ex-husband's address. So they tagged him with her $1,500 electricity bill.
Wow.
And it wasn't until they got the news involved that they actually went back and changed it. But that's just one example of, how you need to follow up and get those things changed.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And you brought up a good point, Gary. You said that Christy will post stuff, information. That's what y'all are great about. We talk about this, but people need to understand this. Where can people get more information? You guys have books. You've got a website. Give people information where they can go, and maybe if they don't want to talk about divorce, you talk about wills, probate. You talk about all kinds of stuff. Where can people find information on stuff like this?
Christy, would you like to jump in and share with everyone?
Yeah, sure. Her audio. She's having a little bit of audio issues. Basically, what would it be? The website, the Facebook page?
Yes, you can go to all those. Obviously, www.ashmorelaw.com is our website. You can find us on Facebook. Be sure to like us on Facebook. We're posting up content all the time, posting up blog posts. We go out there, we tweet. We're very involved in the community where we put on presentations. Again, they're all educational, as well as our books and pamphlets that you can also find on our website and our YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. So y'all are everywhere. People can find their information. And you could use the hashtag as well, everybody out there, AskAshmore. AskAshmore hashtag. And we're talking a lot on there as well. You can ask us any question anytime you want. You can reach out to them also on Google+, Facebook, Twitter. You're everywhere. I still like that you use the www. So that's we're going to get you out of that. We're going to get you in the new world here, which you are. But you don't need www anymore, by the way. People don't worry about that. You can say ashmorelaw.com, okay? Just so you know. Okay. So, and we are live, folks, at the World Wide Web. So Lori Ashmore had a question. What was your question?
Well, I do, because unfortunately as attorneys, a lot of times we see the worst of the situations, and so, Gary and Amy, a lot of times, you may see clients that have already been divorced. They've been divorced for a long time, and Amy, like you said last night on the news, they haven't changed. They're either health insurance or they, never got their QDRO. The properties awarded in the divorce was never actually finalized. They didn't change the names. So what do you do in those circumstances when the divorce was, 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the extent, I guess, of the situation. Deeds, I guess you can always go back and sign, but if it's something, I don't know, more important than that, it could really cause you a lot of time and extra money. I mean, to go back and hire an attorney to fix something that, you weren't able to, or that you didn't take care of years ago. So I would just say it costs you a lot more time and money.
And I think that's the important thing that people need to understand that it is a lot more time consuming and it does get more expensive when you don't finalize everything right after the divorce.
Right.
You're cleaning
I
up
think.
mess.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, it's fine. I was just saying you're basically at that point you're just cleaning up the mess that you made a mistake on. So you're double paying really in a way, which is not smart business.
Right.
You're double paying, number one, and Chris, number two, and we're not going to get into all of this in this Google Hangout. It can be for a later one. But the problem is if one of the ex-spouses dies and property wasn't transferred properly.
Wow. Now that's a whole new, that is an interesting point. Okay, well, that ties actually into the next one, a new will. You better get on a new will immediately, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the...
Everybody's like, yes. Everyone's like, absolutely. That was the most animated y'all have been. That must be an important one. Why is it so important?
Gary, I'm going to let you talk about that just from the start of as soon as you have a client that's been divorced, what do you tell them about the new will?
Yeah, well, the new will is basically null and void, especially as it relates to your now ex-spouse. And a lot of times wills will leave the ex-spouse as part of the one who's going to receive everything after the other spouse dies, and that's the last thing you want after going through especially a contentious divorce. So we tell them that they need to get their estate planning in order. They need to do a new will immediately, even if it's just a temporary kind of fix in between the time that they're still trying to separate everything and organize everything. And after the divorce decree is final, that segues straight into changing your beneficiary designations on all of your life insurance policies, any of your financial documents, because I can't tell you how many times we see that people don't do that, and all of a sudden the ex-spouse is coming into a lot of money, unexpectedly and unproductively.
Oh my gosh. So you're telling me, let's just say something slipped through the cracks, they just got divorced, it was over 10 years later, they haven't even talked to their wife and don't like them, and all of a sudden she can get money from the person if they didn't do that?
Absolutely.
Here's what I can also tell you.
Wow.
You know, like Gary said, talking about the will, your designation, for instance, Keith, I'll use you as an example. If your will still designated your ex-wife as the executor and the beneficiary, it's void. So God forbid if something happens to you, she doesn't get anything under your will, which opens up a whole new can of worms, though, for your kids, and it's going to be a lot more time-consuming and a lot more costly if you don't redo your will. Talking about the beneficiary changes, a lot of times the problems we see is for certain pension plans, especially if it's ERISA. Keith, again, you as the example, if you had an ERISA pension plan and you did not redesignate the beneficiary, you could be divorced 10 years, your wife as the beneficiary, your ex-wife still gets it. She still gets your pension plan because you did not redesignate after your divorce.
Well,
for life insurance, it's a little different because a divorce.
And he still has more for you, Knox. Don't worry.
Oh,
He's
no.
carrying you now.
Well, let me tell you, for divorce, if you have a life insurance policy and you get divorced, your ex can't get the proceeds. That beneficiary designation is void. The problem, though, is the insurance company doesn't know that you're divorced. And so typically what they do is they send the money to that beneficiary. Your executor sends the company a letter saying, whoa, wait a minute, get that $500,000 back because they were divorced 10 years ago. And the insurance company says, sorry, we weren't noticed of it, and you have to go after the beneficiary to get the money, and good luck with that.
Oh, wow. Did you have something, Knox, or did you just pass out?
No, see, I hired Lori to take care of all that for me, so that's why I sleep well at night.
Yeah, absolutely. Financial accounts and miscellaneous items are the last few things, and then we can wrap it up for any closing comments that y'all have about this.
Yeah, your financial accounts, especially the ones that were awarded to you in the decree, you need to make sure you go through and either take your ex-spouse's name off, or if you have them listed as a POD, a payable on death, or if it's maybe a joint tenant with the right of survivorship with your ex-spouse, you want to make sure you go in and redesignate all of that, change all of your signature cards. Just make sure all of your financial accounts are set up properly, the way that you want them moving forward.
And as far as miscellaneous items, Chris, you know, changing your name on the computer, making sure all of your phone passwords have been changed, writing those down somewhere so that you've got them in case something happens to you, and just, you know, reinventing your own privacy at that point.
Yeah, because think about this. If your ex-wife or ex-husband has your Facebook password account, they could post some interesting photos of you.
That they can.
That would not be good.
Last but not least, Chris, tax returns. You know, the year that you get that divorce, it needs to be real clear about what you're going to do and how you're going to handle taxes for that year of divorce. And it's done all sorts of ways. You need to bring your CPA into the mix and make sure that you're clear how those taxes are going to be handled several months later when it's time to do that year's tax return, and how that's going to be handled for that year of divorce.
Okay. Knox, this is wrapping up here. Did you have any comments on this, and has it been helpful, A, and 2, you're going through it, so how has it helped you?
Well, certainly I wish I would have known some of these things a lot earlier. You know, we know it in other aspects of our lives, but we don't apply it here. Sometimes you're just so focused on crossing the finish line, but you know the game's not over when you cross the finish line, right? You got to take your victory lap, and you got to stretch and cool down and hydrate and eat and all these other things. So this is like a game in those things. Don't think you're done just because you've hit the finish line. You know, they've laid it out pretty simply. This is a great checklist. You know, I've done some of them, maybe not as timely as I should have, and again, I wish I would have known it a little bit earlier. But all good stuff, very helpful. Yeah, very helpful. Awesome, and y'all can get more information again at the www.worldwideweb.ashmorelaw.com. That is the Gary Ashmore signature sign off there, everybody. Or you go to a thing called Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Just look for Ashmore Law as well, and you could do hashtag AskAshmore. They've got books, they got information. Really appreciate y'all's time. You're always valuable information about law, and you're really giving back to the community. A great service that y'all provide. Thank y'all very much.
All right, thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
it. Thank you, Chris.
We'll do it again next month.